Hey, my friends! Today we bring you the extraordinary true story of a boy who was born into silence, but taught the world to laugh. This is the emotional, inspiring journey of Charlie Chaplin, a child who grew up hungry and homeless on the streets of London, but who never gave up. With nothing but courage, creativity, and a dream to make the world smile, he became a legend known in every corner of the globe. It's a story about a fighter, a genius, and a man who proved that one smile can change the world. Charlie Chaplin was born in London on April 16, 1889. His full name was Charles Spencer Chaplin, and he came into the world during a very hard time. London, at the end of the 19th century, was crowded and dirty. Many families were poor, and Charlie's family was one of them. Charlie's parents were entertainers. His father, Charles Chaplin Sr., was a singer in music halls. His mother, Hannah, was also a singer and actress. She used the stage name Lily Harley. For a while, they were both part of the world of show business, hoping to live a better life. But things did not go as they had planned. When Charlie was very young, his parents separated. His father drank heavily and left the family. He didn't help them with money or care. Hannah was left to take care of Charlie and his older half-brother, Sidney. She struggled to earn money. She sewed clothes for neighbors, took small acting jobs, and tried her best to feed her children. But the weight was too heavy, and she slowly became sick, physically and mentally. Charlie remembered the cold winters when they had no coal to heat the room. He remembered sleeping hungry. Sometimes he and Sidney would walk the streets looking for food or work. Life was cruel. When Hannah's mental health worsened, she had to be sent to a hospital. Charlie and Sidney were taken to a workhouse. A workhouse was a place for the poor, but it was not kind. Children worked hard for very little food. They were treated without warmth. It was a place full of sadness, and Charlie was just a small boy trying to survive. But even in those dark places, Charlie found light. He watched the world carefully. He copied how people walked, talked, and reacted. He would act out scenes with his brother and make other children laugh. Even while in pain, Charlie made space for laughter. By age 9, Charlie was performing. He joined a children's dance group called the 8 Lancashire Lads. They toured different cities, dancing on small stages. It didn't pay much, but it gave Charlie a chance to escape poverty for a short time. He began dreaming of a bigger life. When Charlie wasn't performing, he walked the streets of London, imagining himself on grand stages. He studied people, their gestures, their struggles. He began to understand that people were not just stories. They were full of emotion. His ability to observe would later become his greatest gift. At 12 years old, Charlie began acting in plays. He got small roles, sometimes just 1 or 2 lines, but he took every job seriously. Audiences noticed him. He didn't just act, he became the character. His body, his eyes, his timing made people pay attention. One of his biggest early successes came when he was cast in a stage play about Sherlock Holmes, where he played a young boy. He toured around England with the play, and his confidence grew. People began talking about him. He was no longer the poor boy from the streets. He was an actor with a future. Then came a big chance, a tour to the United States with a comedy troupe led by Fred Karno. At only 21 years old, Charlie sailed to America in 1910. The boy who once had nothing now stepped onto a ship toward a new life, carrying nothing but talent, hope, and a burning desire to make something of himself. When Charlie Chaplin arrived in the United States with Fred Karno's comedy troupe, he was full of curiosity. America was loud, fast, and full of opportunity. While touring with the group, Charlie performed in cities like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. The audiences loved him. Even though he didn't speak much on stage, his expressions, movements, and timing made people laugh. During one of these tours, a film studio called Keystone Studios noticed him. They were making silent comedy films, and they believed Charlie could be something special. In 1913, they offered him a film contract. It was a big risk for Charlie. He had never acted in front of a camera before, but he accepted. His first few films were small and simple. The camera work was basic, and the stories were short. But Charlie quickly learned how to use the camera to tell stories without words. In only his second film, Kid Auto Races at Venice, 1914, he introduced a character that would become famous across the globe, the Tramp. The Tramp wore a bowler hat, carried a cane, wore oversized shoes, and had a small mustache. He was poor, awkward, and always seemed to get into trouble. But he also had charm, kindness, and a deep heart. People immediately fell in love with this strange little man. He was funny, but also human. He could make people laugh, but he also reminded them of themselves. Charlie's fame exploded. Within a year, he became the most popular film star in the world. He started writing and directing his own films. His talent was growing, and so were his ambitions. He didn't just want to be funny. He wanted to tell real stories, full of feeling and truth. In 1917, he signed a contract that gave him complete control over his films, a rare thing for any actor at that time. 2 years later, in 1919, he joined with 3 other famous artists, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith, to start United Artists, a film company where he could create his work with total freedom. That same year, he released his first masterpiece, The Kid, 1921. In the film, the Tramp finds a baby left in a trash can and raises him like a son. The boy grows up, and the two form a bond that is strong, funny, and deeply emotional. The story came from Charlie's own childhood. He had known the pain of being abandoned, poor, and separated from a mother. Audiences around the world cried and laughed together. It wasn't just a comedy, it was art. Next came The Gold Rush, 1925. In this film, the tramp tries to survive in the freezing mountains while searching for gold. One scene shows him boiling and eating his shoe for dinner. It was both funny and heartbreaking. The film showed how far a man could go in search of hope. By this time, Charlie Chaplin wasn't just a star. He was a legend. His face was known in every country, even in places where people had never seen a film before. They had heard of the tramp. He had become a symbol of survival, of dignity, and of laughter through pain. But Charlie was never satisfied with just being famous. He wanted to grow as an artist. In 1931, he released City Lights, a film that many call his greatest. In the story, the tramp falls in love with a blind flower girl. She believes he is a rich man, and he does everything he can to help her. In the end, she gains her sight, but doesn't recognize him. The final scene, when she touches his hand and realizes who he is one of the most emotional moments in film history. What made this film even more powerful was that it came out at a time when silent films were dying. Sound films, or talkies, had become popular. But Charlie believed that emotion could be stronger than words. He made City Lights without dialogue, only music and silent acting. The risk paid off. The film was a huge success, and critics praised him as a genius. Charlie wrote all his own music, too. He didn't just act or direct. He created the complete experience. He believed that music was the soul of a scene, And he was right. His melodies were gentle, emotional, and unforgettable. In 1936, he made Modern Times, a film that mixed comedy with deep social commentary. The tramp works in a giant factory where the machines never stop. He gets caught in the gears, swallowed by the system, and loses his freedom. The film is funny, yes, but it's also a strong message. Charlie was saying that the modern world was losing its heart. He wanted to remind people to slow down, to care, to remain human. Modern Times was also special because it marked the final appearance of the tramp. After more than 20 years, Charlie said goodbye to the character who had made him famous. The world had changed, and so had Charlie. But he wasn't finished. In 1940, he made his most daring film yet, The Great Dictator. This was his first film with sound, and it was also deeply political. In it, he played two roles: a cruel dictator inspired by Adolf Hitler and a kind Jewish barber. The film was a strong attack on hate, war, and fascism. At the end of the film, Charlie gave a speech, not as a character, but from his own heart. He spoke about peace, kindness, love, and freedom. He begged the world not to give in to hate. The speech became one of the most famous in film history. Even today, it is shared and quoted for its powerful message of hope. By the early 1940s, Charlie Chaplin was not just a film star, he was a global icon. His films had reached nearly every country, and his silent character, the tramp, had touched hearts across generations. But as the world changed, so did Charlie's own life. This part of his journey was no longer about fame. It was about courage, pain, and holding on to dignity. After releasing The Great Dictator in 1940, Charlie was praised by many, but criticized by others. The world was in the middle of World War II, and some people didn't like that a comedian had spoken so boldly against hate, fascism, and Adolf Hitler. Others, especially in America, began to question Charlie's politics. Charlie had always believed in justice and fairness. He spoke out about poverty, war, and the struggles of common people. He believed in peace, equality, and helping the poor. But during the 1940s and 1950s, the United States went through a time of fear called the Red Scare. The government began suspecting many people, especially artists, writers, and actors, of being communists or supporting ideas against America. Although Charlie said he was not a communist, his sympathy for the poor and his criticism of governments made him a target. He refused to become an American citizen, even though he had lived in the U.S. for decades. This angered some people in power. In 1952, while Charlie was on a ship to England for the premiere of his new film Limelight, the U.S. government sent him a message. He would not be allowed back into the country unless he went through a full investigation. Charlie was shocked. America had been his home for over 30 years. He had built his career there. He had raised children there. But now he was unwanted. Rather than return to prove his loyalty, Charlie chose exile. He moved with his family to Corsia-sur-Vevey, Switzerland, a quiet village near Lake Geneva. There, far from Hollywood and the flashing lights, he began a new life. Though older, Charlie still created. He wrote music, worked on screenplays, and fought deeply about the world. He made a few more films, including A King in New York, 1957, and A Countess from Hong Kong, 1967, but none reached the same success as his earlier works. Still, he didn't stop. Art was in his blood. In Switzerland, he lived with his fourth wife, Una O'Neill, the daughter of famous playwright Eugene O'Neill. Una was much younger than Charlie, but their love was deep and lasting. They had 8 children, and Charlie found peace in being a father again, this time in a home full of warmth and joy. He often walked near the lake, played the piano, and wrote quietly. His children would later say that at home, He was playful, funny, and full of love, not the serious artist the world imagined. Time passed, and the world changed again. People began to see Charlie not as a threat, but as a genius who had given so much. In 1972, after 20 years of exile, the United States invited him back to receive an honorary Academy Award for his lifetime contribution to cinema. Charlie, now in his 80s, accepted. When he walked onto the stage at the Academy Awards, something magical happened. The entire audience stood and clapped for a full 12 minutes. It was the longest standing ovation in Oscar history. Charlie's eyes filled with tears. He didn't speak much. He simply smiled. That moment was not just about an award. It was a moment of forgiveness, love, and honor. The boy from the London streets had finally come full circle. In the last years of his life, Charlie's health declined. He moved more slowly, spoke more softly, and stayed mostly at home. But his mind remained sharp, and his heart stayed warm. On Christmas Day, December 25th, 1977, Charlie Chaplin passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was 88 years old. The world mourned deeply. Newspapers around the world printed headlines honoring the man who had made millions laugh, cry, and feel deeply. But Charlie's story didn't end there. In a strange twist, a few months after his death, 2 thieves dug up his body and stole his coffin, hoping to get money from the family. The world was shocked again, but police soon caught the criminals, and Charlie's body was buried once more, this time under thick concrete, so no one could disturb it again. Charlie Chaplin once said, "Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot." His life was exactly that. He had seen hunger, poverty, pain, and rejection, but he had also lived with laughter, love, music, and beauty. Even today, Charlie Chaplin lives on. His films are watched in schools, theaters, and homes across the world. His characters, especially the tramp, remind us to stay kind, stay hopeful, and never stop smiling, no matter how hard life gets. For young people today, Charlie's story offers more than entertainment. It offers a lesson. You can come from nothing and still become something great. Pain does not have to make you bitter. It can make you wise. Laughter is not just fun, it is powerful. Charlie Chaplin's life was not easy, but it was full of meaning. He made the world a little brighter, one step, one scene, one smile at a time. So if you're ever feeling lost or hopeless, think of Charlie. Think of the boy who danced in the streets, the man who made a world laugh without saying a word, and the legend who reminded us that a day without laughter is a day wasted.